and welcome to Luke. My name is Matt Miofsky, and I'm the lead pastor at The Gathering in St. Louis. For the next 6 weeks, we're going to be walking through the New Testament Gospel according to Luke. Now, there are several features that make Luke unique amongst the New Testament stories of Jesus. It focuses on Jesus' love for those on the margins, it's written with an eye towards the Gentiles, and it's the only gospel that has a sequel, the book of Acts. But as we get started, let's talk about what was going on before Luke started writing. Now, if you pick up a Bible and try to read it straight through, you notice a huge gap as you finish the Old Testament and begin the New. Now, most scholars believe that the latest Old Testament writings describe events that happened 400 years before Jesus was born. Then, nothing. For 4 centuries, nothing. Scholars call this the intertestamental period. Others have even called it the silent years. Now, while it's not quite fair to say that these years were silent, they were dark years for God's chosen people. Since the destruction of the city of Jerusalem at the hands of the Babylonians in 587 BC, Jerusalem, God's city, and the Jewish people, God's chosen people, were ruled by foreign powers. Other than some brief periods of independence and war, the people that were supposed to be protected and ruled by God were under the thumb of oppressive empires. Now, the names might have changed from the Babylonians to the Persians to the Greeks to the Romans, but the reality was the same. It seemed like God was far away and God's promises had failed. Now, for the people of God, it was a time of sadness, sometimes lament. But ironically, it was also a period of great hope. From the ashes of the destruction of Jerusalem arose a sense that God had not and would not abandon God's people. Israel began to look forward to a day when God would send someone, an anointed person set apart for a special purpose. This anointed one, or Messiah, would free the people of Israel from bondage under foreign rulers, reestablish righteousness and justice in Israel, restore the throne of David, and usher in a period of peace and prosperity for God's people. It was during this period that the people of Israel formed and shaped, solidified their understanding of what this Messiah or anointed one would look like. But 400 years is a long time. And so as they looked forward to this anointed one, the people also had to exercise patience. They had to wait a long time. They had to maintain a posture of expectancy and hope. They had to trust God. They had to believe that while life looked bleak right now, joy was coming. They had to learn to live as hopeful people, believing in what they could not yet see and trusting in God's promises for the future. It was into this 400-year pattern of waiting and hoping and looking forward to God's Messiah that Jesus was born and began his ministry. It is this story that Luke tells us. Luke reveals Jesus as the Christ, the anointed one, fulfilling not only Israel's hope, but that of the whole world. Now, sometimes Jesus would fit within the expectations that surrounded him. Oftentimes, he would not. But the entire time, he would proclaim that the waiting period was over. God's kingdom was coming, and a new stage for God's people was beginning. As we study Luke, my hope is that we'll tap into our own expectations of God. What is it that we're struggling to see? What are we waiting patiently for? Who do we expect God to be, and how do we expect God to look? It's against the backdrop of our own despair and hope that Jesus comes to us as Messiah.